Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's days of our lives, April 15, 2025. So we start off with Leo and Gabby, which is always it's always a hoot watching these two because there's no love lost between them, but it's always really funny. So anyways, they're there having breakfast, some waffles that Javi made for them, and Gabby's being her usual cheerful self and not sharing the syrup with Leo. And Leo is like, my boyfriend made this, but Gabby's like, it's my house, and so it's my syrup, get your own. So, anyways, he said you're just lashing out because you lose your company and you don't know where you stand. So she's like, for information, Xander and Philip still want to work with me. I'm a big brand, and like without me, it can't be nothing. So it's like, you know, you're just saying that because you know that you're on your way out, and like it's like this previous scenario I had with my an ex of mine, and I asked him what is his 3-year plan, and he didn't mention me at all. So it's kind of like that, right? So he's just saying, right now you don't know where you're gonna end up. And she's like, well, aren't you, just a weasel? So it's like, look, I am also, trying to be on the optimistic side as well. Look at it. At least you're not Kristen. You're not in custody like her and her losing her company to the Kyriakis men. So, maybe you should count your blessings and all that, right? So Jada is over at Stephanie's, because again she doesn't have no place to stay. Rafe impulsively just kick her out like that. And she and Stephanie are talking about, how is it gonna be with her and Rafe, and she doesn't know where they stand. And she, after she did tell him about what happened between her and Sean, he just really kicked her out. And they haven't really talked since then. And she doesn't know how he would react if she told him that she spent the night over at Sean again. So now she's wondering if they'll even have a chance. And Stephanie's optimistic that Rafe will cool down, Rafe will come around, and he will see that it was just a one-time thing, it was a mistake. And she's pressing Jada to really take the initiative and reach out to him first, text him to meet up, to really talk about things. Sometimes you gotta take the initiative and do it. You never know where it might, what it might result in. So she was hesitant, but then she said, you know what, you're right. So she did send Rafe a text message to meet up. At some point they do meet up. There wasn't much, so I guess we'll have to wait until they have a conversation. There was a scene with Sean and JJ, and they're still working on the EJ shooting case, waiting on the ballistics report. So at this point, they're hoping that they're nailing the suspect and they get the reports. So the reports are in, and they're about to discuss it with Kristen, who has been there in custody overnight. So before they came in, Melinda comes in with some breakfast for her, and Kristen is definitely obviously miserable because she's been in hold up for 24 hours until they can get back the results. And she's like, Melinda, what are you doing? So Melinda is saying that I'm not a magician, right? I'm just your lawyer, right? And you know how federal law is, they can't hold you up if they have definite cause and all that, right? So she said, you have bad news. So she shows Kristen the notification that her company has been taken over by the Kyriakis brothers. So she's like, how could this happen? So she said, they definitely striked when you were placed in custody. So of course now she's just upset because JJ and Sean have her in custody over something she did not do, and she's just really furious now. Everything is just really imploding, right? So JJ and Sean come in and they have the ballistics report. So Kristen is like, well, what is it? So they said that the bullet has went through a lot of trauma. Once they, dislodge it from EJ, surgery can have that effect on the metal casing of the bullet. So, it was really hard to determine, the findings and all that. But they matched it up with the outside of Kristen's gun, and it didn't match, so they have no proof of that. So Kristen's like, can I leave now? So JJ and Sean are gonna have this thing to say, like, what if you shot EJ with another gun and blah blah. She's like, and Belinda's like, if y'all really coming with that, like, y'all need to let my client go, because like you guys really don't have no concrete evidence, nothing to hold her any longer, right? So I'm like, and I agree with Melinda, like, did they, how did they get their badges? Because I don't know. They're not cut off for this detectives. It's like they just read how to be a detective dummy book and they felt like that was just it because they're not really cut off for this at all, right? So they have nothing to hold her anymore. So Kristen's like, if you excuse me, I have to take over my company back and she asked for a gun back and she got it back and they're at square one again. So now they're thinking about their other suspects, which they should have been doing while they had Kristen. And so now they're looking at Gabby, right? So let's go on to Sammy and Ray because they took the kiss straight to bed and Havoc walks in on them. He's surprised to see them, but anyways he's like, let me leave. So Ray introduces him to his ex-wife Sammy and they get acquainted. So he's like, not that it's any of my business, but like, how did it happen? You and Jada are over. So he's like, this, I didn't do it to get back at Jada or anything like that. I don't know where we stand or anything, but this is what it is. So Javi said that he had breakfast waiting out there, and um yeah, so it was kind of awkward, but not awkward because, again, as Sammy said, that she doesn't feel like she was doing anything wrong. It's not like him and Jada were together, but yeah, she doesn't feel guilty at all, and she's saying neither should Rafe. So at some point, Javi leaves them, and they get to talking, and Sammy says, come back to Italy with me, like our whole life is back there, so why not come back here? So Rafe is saying like, I still got things to tie up here, got my job here and all that. So he's like, you just said it to me that that I was just gonna say no. She said, yeah, but I still could have tried, right? So they're there, and they Sammy's saying that you're the best thing that has happened to me. This was a good distraction, and Ray feels the same. So anyways, that was it with them for now. So Javi comes out to Leo and Gabby, and he does inform them that well, before he could get to the to really inform them of which XY, because Gabby and Leah were saying if it was Hope or Nicole, and they're saying Hope is but with Bro, sorry, Hope is with Bo, and Nicole is in Europe with their baby and everything, so it wouldn't make sense it would be them. So then before Harvey could even say it, Sammy walks out. So Gabby's surprised to see Sammy, and Sammy said, Gabby, nice to see you. I would ask how Ari is, but I had a FaceTime with her. I'd like her to come out to Italy for the summer. So Gabby's saying, she would like her to come here. So she's like, she can do both. So anyways, she asks her about her coming here, assuming what she's here for. She said, yeah, to check on EJ's condition. So Gabby was just snarky and said, I would say sorry to you about him, but I really don't care either less, and that would be a bogus lie. So she's like, aren't you, sweet on the line, right? So at some point, Rafe comes in, and Rafe said, I see that you're acquainted with everybody. So she's like, yeah, it's all a little bit awkward, but anyways, he said that he has some work to do, and he was gonna offer Sammy a ride. So she's like, no, you're not gonna get rid of me that easily. So she stayed back with the two guys. Gabby goes to to deal with a company and all of that, right? So anyways, it's tense between Leo and Sammy because of past grievances, what he did to her son Will, trying to come between Will and Sonny's marriage. So she informed Javi about, you sure about this one, you guys are in love and all that, but please know that you shouldn't be blind to him and what he did. So Javi's saying that he's aware of everything that he did in the past. He knew who he was back then and who he is now, and he's okay with it. Like, he doesn't want her to be trying to spoil that. So she said, okay, I wish you two the best of luck. So she said, you're gonna need it, right? So that's when she left. So anyways, Gabby comes to the station and she said like, I don't know if you read the article, but I need to take care of my company. So it's like, sorry to hear that, it must be stressful. So anyways, she's like, why am I here? So he said that it's about EJ shooting case. Kristen is where Dawn, one suspect. Kristen was released from custody today. So she's like, oh. So he's like, we have to look at the other list of suspects. So she's like, okay, so what does that have to do with me? So he's like, the other suspect would be you. So she's like surprised because, why would she be included? But let's see how this turn out. If he's gonna be very if he's going to be very unbiased towards it, since this girl is his girlfriend, right? So Kristen and Melinda, they're at the Demira office, and she's storming in, and Melinda's like, Kristen, you need to go. Like, you can't be in here. And Xander comes in. So Melinda's like, Xander. And she said she forgot her man. So she's like, Mr. Caracas, you know, Xander's like, what is going on here? So she said, I was trying to get Mr. Mayor out of the office since everything is happening. And as legal counsel, I was advising her not to be here. So Xander said, about that. Like, you're no longer our legal counsel. As me and my brother always say, loyalty is very important to us, and we need people who are going to be loyal on our team. And we already are looking for somebody else who is gonna be a part of that vision. So she's like, I am not loyal to nobody. Like, I just do my job. I'm a competent lawyer. So it's like, that may be so, but we don't need your services here. So if you can just leave. So she leaves, and Kristen is there, and Kristen is like, how do you pull this off? So he's like, we just seize the opportunity while you're in custody. So she's like, I have an opportunity for you. So she pulls out the gun on him, and that was where the episode ended. But I'm saying, Xander, you're talking about loyalty. Your brother definitely doesn't know that. He's just, full of it, and I can't wait for you to find out. But once that finds out, and Kristen gets control over back this company, now that she's out of custody, Melinda's out of a job, because Melinda just said right in front of her that she has no loyalty. So how is she gonna get back in as legal counsel? I don't know. But what, she could be the next DA. Like, she does a good job of representing, and she's definitely a shark when it comes on to the cases and all that. Definitely need her on board again. But what do you guys think about today's episode? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel. I will see you guys tomorrow.